Welcome everyone to the third sessions of Managing Disability at Work. We're very happy to welcome you to the third sessions because we've been together with a very distinguished panelists today. And before we begin sessions, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Lina Maulidina Sabrina. I'm the Senior Program Officer from ASEAN. And before we hear from the welcoming remarks from our distinguished panel, I would like to notify you that we have a comment and chat box at the bottom of this platform to for you to address the questions. And if you would like to grab the mic, it's also fine, so you can address your questions perfectly. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker. It's Stefan Tromel. So if I may, I would like to introduce briefly. Stefan Tromel is the Senior Disability Specialist at the International Labour Organization, or ILO. So before joining ILO from 2008 to 2013, he was the Executive Director of the International Disability Alliance. And prior to that, he was also the Director of the European Disability Forum and was actively involved in the negotiation process of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities from 2002 to 2006. So without further ado, I will give the floor to Stefan. Stefan, over to you, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Lina, and good afternoon to colleagues in Asia Pacific. I'm talking to you from Geneva, Switzerland. So here we're still in the morning. Colleagues, I think we can all agree that the COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on our lives, and that people with disabilities have been over-impacted negatively by the pandemic. But today I really want to focus on positive messages, because there are also many. I think it's fair to say you can see from my gray hair that I'm much older than the other colleagues in this session. I've been working in this area for more than 30 years. And I think it's fair to say that the current level of attention to persons with disabilities is unprecedented. We have a UN convention that Lina just mentioned on the rights of persons with disabilities. We have the Sustainable Development Agenda with explicit recognition to the rights of persons with disabilities. We have a much stronger global disability movement. We have now within the United Nations family, we have a United Nations Disability Inclusion Strategy. And that's the main focus of my presentation today, we also have an unprecedented level of commitment within the private sector to the employment of persons with disabilities. In the ILO, we work a lot with the private sector, both with global companies, but also with national companies. We do that in the context of the ILO Global Business and Disability Network. And we have seen also in the 3 years, in the 2 years of the pandemic and this year of sort of post-pandemic, we have seen an increase of membership both by global multinational companies and national networks even higher than pre-pandemic. And also in particular in the Asian region, we have very well functioning, very active networks in India, in China, in Philippines, in Indonesia, Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka. And not only is there more attention by the private sector to the employment of persons with disabilities, but it's also better attention. The whole narrative that we hear from the private sector is not a narrative around legal obligation, important as they are. It's not a narrative around charity. We need to do something good for persons with disabilities. No, it's a narrative based on skills and competences. We want to employ persons with disabilities because they have the skills and competences that we require. And I think that's also the best guarantee that it's not only getting persons with disabilities into the labor market, but also ensure their career development. The future of work, we have had previous discussions already also today. The future of work, of course, brings challenges, but also opportunities. And let me now focus on opportunities. I think it's fair to say that currently in all our countries, also in the Asian region, and perhaps in particular in the Asian region, there's a huge unmet demand for IT professionals. Professionals that will work on cybersecurity, digital accessibility, blockchain, big data analysis. The private and public sector is desperately looking for professionals to fill these jobs. And I think we have here an amazing opportunity if we work in a concerted way between the private sector, organization of persons with disabilities, training providers, and public organizations who need to provide the adequate policy and legal environment to ensure that a significant and fair share of these new jobs go to persons with disabilities, and in particular to women with disabilities. We always need to remember the additional gender discrimination in STEM skills and STEM jobs. I think this is the message to you, and I'm definitely it's a huge opportunity, in particular for young women and men with disabilities. So it's very good to see the young colleagues that are part of this session. And I'm now giving back the floor to you, Lina, and I'm looking forward to, with great interest, to what the colleagues have to say. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Stefan. So I believe age is just a number, but it's very great to see you here amongst with other speakers. So I do agree that we've heard so many narratives to improve the people with disabilities and inclusivity in the society, but and then it requires the combination of skills and a multi-stakeholder approach to escalate this inclusivity. So given the fact that together with the distinguished panelists today, we are very honored to have the first speaker on board. Let me introduce Nunu Supaanong. So Nunu Supaanong is the Secretary General ASEAN of Autism Self-Advocacy Network. So she's been working at the Community Development Department at the ASEAN Pacific Development Center on Disability, and she's so passionate to promote the inclusivity and lessen the discriminations and exclusion. So welcome on board, Nunu. You can say hi. Okay. And then the second speaker is Tanzila Khan. Tanzila is the founder of Girl Things. So Tanzila is a Pakistani that promotes the disability rights as well, not only promoting as an activist, but also the other professional speaker and of course the entrepreneurs. And the Girly Things application is a mobile application which delivers sanitary napkins to women with disabilities and focusing on raising awareness of access to reproductive health and educations with disability for persons with disabilities. And then, as I said before, she has produced lots of books and then subject to and then give speeches to many seminars and also working to destigmatize disabilities in Pakistan. So welcome on board, Tanzila. It's so great to have you. And then the last speak but not least is Made Wikandana. Hi, Made is the Disability Inclusion Officer from UNICEF Indonesia. He has demonstrated history working in organization of persons with disabilities as well as at UNICEF. He works a lot on mainstreaming disability inclusive practice and approach on reflecting on cross-sectoral programs and activities. Welcome weekend to this session. Thank you so much all to agreeing being the speaker here. And now I would like to dive into the discussion. So in that sense, I would like to begin with Wiccan first. So Wiccan, the first question is we have noticed that disproportionate number of people with disabilities are still lagging behind in the works and employments. Also, so many narrative has been existed, like Stefan mentions, but in your perspective, what are the existing biggest barriers for people with disabilities to continue on face when looking for work and then at work itself? So we can over to you. Thank you. Sorry, we can. I think we cannot hear you. Can you say something again?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Loud and
sorry.
clear. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much. First of all, I think I'm really grateful to be here and also to be joined by a really amazing panels and also speaker. Um, as Lina said that my name is Made Wikandana and I'm from Indonesia, working as a disability inclusion officer. I think that as a youth with disabilities, and I'm also a person living with visual impairment, I think employment is very a crucial issue that this has also been very challenging to for me and also for a lot of my communities in Indonesia. I remember at the age of 13 when I became blind for the first time, and then growing up, I think opportunities for person with disabilities, and also especially for person who are visual impairment is very limited. But then if we're looking at the biggest barriers and also challenges when it comes to equal rights and equal opportunity in the job market, I think is we really eventually come down to two biggest hurdles. And first of all is really about stigma, and also the person with disability themselves. And what I mean by this is that we have all of this private institution, we have the government, we have all the job market, and then yes, I believe that about what Stefan had just said, that the future is getting brighter and brighter. It's a lot of opportunities, but still there is a huge task for us to really remove the barriers when it comes to stigma, the perception, and also the prejudices that still exist among person with disabilities, especially when they are looking for a job. And often we said that we hear that in the emergency situation, for example, they are person with disabilities can be the first to be fired and also the last to be hired. And this is also what is been happening in Indonesia. Although we have so many policies, we have so many convention and ratification of CRPD in most of the countries, and policy in place regarding the employment, job equal job opportunity for person with disabilities. But still, sometimes that kind of prejudicism and also the bad stigma around whether the person with disability themselves can really do the job or can really work effectively is still a big question. But on the other hand, I think it also let's not to forget about how we can improve ourselves as a person with disability myself. I think that the responsibility is not only for the private institution, it's not for only for the private companies, it's not only for the government or the job market, but how can we as a disability community also improve our skills, our competency, right? And with the emerging market and all of these amazing technologies when it comes to big data, blockchain, and also the futuristic tech, I think the opportunities definitely, I think the opportunities definitely is bigger and bigger. The pie is getting bigger. It's not only about there are too many people sitting the same pie now, but I think the pie is getting bigger. And also person with disability themselves is I think is getting to that point where we can catch up, and we can also compete with other peers who are not disabled. But then still there is the part where the barriers when it comes to stigma, when it comes to the enabling environment. For example, if we are talking about accessibility of the workplace, the reasonable accommodation, is it there yet, is it not there yet? And also that also play a big factor. And working in UNICEF, for example, in Indonesia, I think that I've been very lucky to have been given such a very reasonable good accommodation, accessibility. So I think what I'm trying to say is that all of these barriers, all of this disabling environment that's still there, it can be removed, it can be eliminated. And once it removed from the society, and those people with disabilities can do their work effectively like others who doesn't have a disability, then they can still pretty much do the same job. But then the task is in our hands to remove these barriers externally and also internally.
Sure. Thank you, Wikan. Thank you for highlighting the key that it's important to enabling the accessibility for people with disabilities at the workforce, and then to break the stigma and prejudice of people with disabilities to be the first to be fired and or the last to be hired. So, given the fact, I would like to move on to the second speaker, to Nunu. Nunu, if I may ask the questions, we can have explaining on the existing challenges and barriers that is still exist in the society. But you have been working at the Self-Advocacy Network and the level of ASEAN. So, in your perspective, how could we promote and set up an inclusive workplace that is not only value each of the employees' strength, but also unlocking each of the skills of the employee without saying you are the persons with disability or not. So, Nunu, I saw you are fixing the camera. So, are you ready to answer? Okay. I cannot hear you, Nunu. Sorry. Sorry, it's still, we cannot hear you yet. Mm-hmm. Can you say a word again? Sorry, no.
Hello.
Yes, it's
Finally,
can hear you. Yeah, Nunu,
I
over.
restarted it.
It's okay. So Nunu, over to you.
Okay, so in my perspective, there's not, when it's come to unlock the what to say the skills of person with disabilities who are working in the in any sectors. The first one, you need to make a working environment friendly and accessible for them, not only the physical one but also the attitude one, which is very very important, because the once when person, I totally agree with Made that person with disabilities always be the first to be fired and the last one to be hired. And yes, it is. And for me, it is if you started with your attitudes, it's all comes later, when it's come to the employment. You just have to open your mind and and just talking to their colleagues, especially their team, the team that they gonna working every day, in the practitioner levels. So it is very important. And the second one is you try to have as I sometimes I what to say, sometimes I knew from my boss that sometimes you need to make fun activities, like try to find the activities that in this term, activities is not like activities or games, that kind of that, but it's like a challenges. It's like a it's like a it's like a challenging task or something that it is very very interesting, that you ever done it before. I think you can do this, and it's like it's push them a little bit, like, okay, meant it push mentally that, okay, this is more than just the recognizing their skills, but at the same time you have to trust them that they would not ruin everything. But yeah, so it is very important to have trust and try to make a new assignment all the time. When it's come to the employment, sometimes you repeat the same task over and over again every day. Is no way that you can go climbing your job, your career path. Is it's not success. It's not sustainable. So it is. So you need to develop the skills, and in the same time you make it more challenging in the same time.
Okay. So yeah, it's so important to first like building the trust to give at least the opportunity for persons with disability at work, and then it's also important to shifting the mindset at least. So to be open minded, and then not only focusing on hard skills but also like soft skills. So yeah, thank you, Nunu, for raising these key points. And moving forward, we have Tanzila here. Tanzila is based on from Pakistan, but she's now in Sweden, right? Tanzila. So yeah, Tanzila has been working a lot on advocacy strategies for disability and women rights in Pakistan, but I believe it's also globally now. So how do you see the increasing level of awareness has been impacting the inclusive society for persons with disabilities? So over to you, Tanzil. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lina. I completely agree with my fellows over here, Nunu and Madhe. I think they've really raised good practical points. Just to add to that, first insight I'd like to give that since I've worked in Pakistan in the South Asian region all my life, and then I also had access to the Southeast Asian region and Africa. But now in Europe, I can say one thing sadly that there's a lot of space for development even in Europe. So when you said the word global, I liked how you put it because I think inclusion is something that we need to talk about on all levels. And sometimes the West can actually learn from Asia. And I'll come to that example shortly. I think one very important key factor over here is the psychological safety of anyone present in the group. Sometimes in companies, we see that they run these programs just to hire people with disabilities. They have these certain programs. One of them I was also part of with a very popular telecom company in Pakistan. The program was amazing because I was not hired as an intern. I was hired as part of the main team. I had access to the main table. I had access to the director, the boss, everybody. And I felt that I'm being treated like an equal person. Now it's up to me how much hard work I put in to climb the ladder and get a promotion or anything of that sort. But the only flaw with that program was it was a 1 year program. So even if they hire someone with a disability for 1 year, they have good salary, they have good access, they're growing, and all of a sudden they have to quit and they have to move on. So even after that program, when I had to advocate for it and I had to tell other young people with disabilities that you must be part of this program, they were like, do we have the chance of going forward? And I think the chances for that were pretty minimal. So these temporary programs, however, they give a good kickstart to people with disabilities to understand the job market, to understand what's it like to live in the corporate world and pick up these skills. They're not sustainable in its own way. And it's literally like, I think I jokingly say it's like teasing someone with a disability to give them a lifestyle temporary and then take it away from them. So our programs also must be accountable in terms of being sustainable to make sure that if we engage a person with disability, we're engaging them for a lifetime. And I think many corporates, multinationals, international organizations out there do have the capacity, they do have the money, they do have the resources to build that infrastructure. So there are no excuses over there. If I hear a small startup, since I'm an entrepreneur, I understand the challenges of startups. And if they say, Tanzila, we don't have the budget to accommodate someone with a disability, I will understand that. I will completely understand that, and I will understand that they have to take baby steps. But most of these organizations that have been there for hundreds of years and they're doing pretty well in terms of making money, if they do not have a disability policy, if they do not have accountability of inclusion, then they should be in trouble. And we as a network should hold them accountable on every level. Coming back to my point of psychological safety, you hire someone with a disability, and if they don't feel the power or the inspiration to safely speak in a boardroom what they think, then that is not inclusion. And many times people with disabilities, they're sometimes treated like children. They're sometimes given like menial tasks and not the actual mind training tasks. And that is where we also need to distinguish that we have to create an environment, and very, very rightly put forward through by Nunu, that it's the attitude. So infrastructure and community must go hand in hand in every sector. So these are a couple of points, and I'm happy to engage in this conversation further.
So thank you, Tanzila. So that's true that the advocacy strategy has been influencing the society to promoting psychological safety for people with disabilities, and then it's important to build a sustainable programs. Actually, not only a kickstart program that is lasting for a year or a short program only. So yeah, so that's very important. But I would like to continue with you again, Tanzila, because um, you mentioned that the collaboration is important, but and then you mentioned also as the entrepreneurs you face many challenges, and you are also having disabilities issue, but you managed to be the founder of Girly Things. So could you please enlighten us on how you build this platform utility organizations that is so right now so important in this era? So over to you again, Tanzila.
Thank you, Lina, for telling me, like reminding me about it, and how you put it that I think being an entrepreneur with a disability has its own set of challenges, and the access to the market, the access to opportunities, the access to vendors. Sometimes you find more cheaper vendors if you're trying to produce something in a market that itself is not accessible. So all of these clubbed together do create a set of challenges, but they're not as big of an excuse to not do something. So I was happy to overcome all of those challenges and set examples for my other community members as well. As per my application, it's about mental health care, which is a huge taboo in my region as well, even today. And to speak about it is also very important because it's a very essential part of any woman's journey. And menstruation is something that affects half of the world, yet we have declared it as a taboo area. Now you club that with disability, which unfortunately again is seen as a taboo. So it's like a taboo double scoop ice cream that I thought I'm gonna feed the entire world together. And in some ways, it really helped because these are concepts that we've never really spoken before, and clubbing that with technology was also a good stepping forward, because this way we introduced ourselves in the femtech world. Again, this world, as I'm sitting here in Europe, in Sweden, I can tell you disability is not as often talked about as I thought it was. In fact, I came here to connect opportunities between Asia and Europe, but looks like a lot of things I learned in Asia would be more applicable over here, which is great. I think an exchange of knowledge is great. But when it comes to entrepreneurship, I would highly emphasize on the fact that as much as we put focus on hiring people with disabilities, we must give them resources to start their own businesses as well. There's a very small fraction of people with disabilities in this ecosystem, and it is a dream to see that if the world population is 10%, then we must occupy spaces within that ratio as well. Other than that, it does not make sense to me. And my last comment on this side would also be that disability for me has taken a more broader sense. For example, it's not just about impairment of the body in a certain way or something that halts you in living a productive life, but we all experience disability. For example, when we get older, when we're a baby, we're also disabled that way. So it's a human experience. So the world must invest in accessibility and inclusion, because it's not just about this 10%, it's actually about the entire world. So we must step a little further and see the productivity and the benefits of talking about disability, investing in inclusion, and ensuring that everyone has equal access, because when that happens, miracles happen.
Yes. So yeah, it's very inspiring, Tanzila, to know that you are working on this digital tools that is not only promoting the access to people with disability, but also women, because those two groups are a disadvantaged group as well. And like the way that you highlight that, um, we are facing each of disability in different type of ages, and maybe we can shift the mindset to like either it's not disability, it's different ability that we have in every. So thank you, Tanzila. And moving forward, I would like to go back to Nunu. So Nunu, we've heard that Tanzila's perspective as the entrepreneurs on promoting the more inclusivity for people with disabilities. And at your work, Nunu, we would like to know how is the current progress of mainstreaming the inclusion for people with disabilities and then across ASEAN as well. So over to you, Nunu.
Thank you very much, Lina. So, well, if you're talking about the disability movement right now in ASEAN is huge, because I will try to summarize as much as possible. So, for the movement in ASEAN right now, the person with disabilities, they are most likely to left behind because of the new, some of the countries, they have new wave of COVID-19. So they are not just being left behind, but in the same time, the services that it is not to, what to say, not accessible for person with disabilities. It still exists in ASEAN. And also, if the in terms of the advocacy for the advocacy and awareness in ASEAN countries, there is many of countries that are very positive to person with disabilities, like Philippines, Malaysia, and I think Singapore. But more than that, if you coming to overall system that there are exist for person with disabilities, and there is a covered in every aspect of person with disabilities life, then some of people say Thailand is the best, and I say no. I would say no, because yes, they're covered, but in the same time, there is so many things that inside in details that you foreigners will not understand, but for locals like me, they're gonna, am I need to do like this again? And for the current progress on what my organization is making is we try to do so many things in the same time. Like we implement the approach of disability inclusive business at our office. We have the bakery and restaurant and chocolate cafe in the same place, and we did so many approaches that isn't make enough to cover all the aspects of person with disabilities, not in just ASEAN, not in just Thailand, but also in the Asia Pacific level, and maybe gone global. So for me, it is if there is something to say to ASEAN, I have only 3 words. Oh, 4 words actually. One is incentive. If you want to improve everything, this have to be incentive on something. Like if you want to employ people with disabilities, then the policy need to come with a very interesting incentive. like tax redemption, that kind of thing, and also the efforts, or what I call dare to overcome barriers and challenges, because you cannot you cannot go forward if you afraid to fall. You need to fall sometime. It's just efforts. You need to know that when you fall, you need to stand up and keep walking again. And awareness is not enough. Awareness to action. I will say that because, well, if it is awareness to consciousness, they're just conscious. They're just inside your head. But if action, then you make something. And for the last one is the equal. The equal exists in everyone, and equal can be in each alphabet. They have their own words inside. E for empowerment, because persons with disabilities can be empowered, and also they empowered the most by employment. 2 is quality of life. Once the empowerment come in a good place, it will affect the quality of life. 3 is you or understanding, because all of this will not begin if you are not understand. And A, awareness. Then it's come to A. See, awareness, come again. It just starts with awareness. And L, linkage. It's not just a linkage between the people like this. Disability, they have so many cross-cutting issues. And you cannot say, oh, it's none of my business. No, it's everyone's business. Persons with disabilities live in the same community, same society with all of you. And you cannot just deny that there are not exist. So that's it from
Yes,
me.
thank you so much, Nunu. It's very insightful, empowering, and informative at the same time. So we noticed that disabilities issue is a cross-cutting issues, and it cannot be solved by only one approach, but multi-stakeholder approach needs to be involved, and then not only involving affirmative policies approach, but need to be structural reform probably for the policies. And it's so interesting that you highlight the current program on disability inclusive business that incorporating the entrepreneurship and then with the persons with disabilities as well, and which actually that's the next topic on the fourth session. But so thank you so much, Nunu. And last but not least, we are going to hear from Wikan or Made. If you please tell us on the ongoing UNICEF strategy and efforts in mainstreaming the disability inclusive practice and approaches in Indonesia, that would be so wonderful to see. This is actually happened, not only building the awareness, but also come to action, as Tunu mentioned before. Over to you, Weekend.
Yeah, thank you. And listening to other speakers, I think they all have a really amazing, uh, insightful, resourceful feedback about that. But then, I think in what we have been working on in UNICEF Indonesia, and for me as a disability inclusion officer, I work a lot with youth with disabilities, adolescent with disabilities, and I often said to them that again, age just not just a number, right? And often they said that I'm not young enough to be a part of this program, and I said to them that you 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 do not you don't stop innovating, you don't stop creating when you get old, but when you get old when you stop doing that, you get old when you stop innovating, when you stop creating, when you stop being creative, and in mainstreaming disability inclusion is through this program. I mean, we have here um, capacity building. For example, we're doing capacity building for young people to teach them how to code, for example. And then my colleague said to me, then and Madi or Wikan, do you have any youth with disabilities? Sure, I have youth with disabilities. So it the way that I walk this through is I try to mainstream youth and adolescent with disabilities to into as much as program that we have, right? Not only a disability specific programming, not only about disability awareness, but trying to blend them in how they can, for example, code if they are youth with disabilities or if they are girls with disabilities. And I think also Tanzila really touching upon a real issue there about girls with disabilities, and do they have a skills to use their manage their finances, for example. I mean, I believe that financial literacy is very crucial things, especially among youth. And let's see how can we make it to also mainstream that to youth with disabilities, because the big issue is how can we unlock all of these programs, right? All of this program, not only from UNICEF, as what we're here just we are supporting the government of Indonesia, but how can we unlock, how can we enable the program, the mainstream program, whether it's capacity building, whether it's training, whether it's a vocational training, how can we make it as that it's inclusive for person with disabilities, it's accessible for person with disabilities, and uh, youth and also adolescent with disabilities, because we are really huge on that. Youth and adolescent have access to this, so they can better themselves, they can prepare themselves, they can have skills, because again, world is moving fast, and world is moving fast, and we need to ride the wave, right? We cannot just fight the wave, we need to ride the wave, like in Hawaii, I think, we need to surf the wave. And I believe that what we are working in UNICEF, trying to mainstream disability inclusion, is to get as much as youth with disabilities into the mainstream program, into our mainstream implementation, whether it's capacity building, whether it's regarding how to code, how to life skill, adolescent skills. We have so much of them, but then the question is still, are person with disabilities included? Are youth with disabilities included? Are do they have access? Are there any barriers disabling them to enjoy the same benefit? We need to remove barriers, and I think as we all are agree here, we need to remove that. And I've been very grateful to be a part of this platform, and also to work in my organization to also remove that and mainstream disability inclusion to be more prevalent in UNICEF Indonesia, and also nationally and globally in Asia Pacific.
Yes, thank you very much, Wikan. So it's very enlightening to know that you involve youth, because youth plays critical role in the future of work as well. But as you mentioned, that you are not considering as young persons, or you are considering as a stop at the old when you are stop creating. So it's critical to change the mindset, actually, about the perspective of youth, and then about the perspective of our different ability, instead of we are having like disabilities. So thank you so much to all of the panels. And before I close the session, I believe that Stefan would like to address some key points from this very insightful speakers. So Stefan, over to you, please.
Yeah, thank you, Lina. Well, nothing much to add, because I mean all presentations have been so amazing. But keeping with the positive approach. I mean, I'm aware of all the challenges. Nunu has reminded us of those, and thanks for that. But I want to start with where we can finish, which is the wave. I think we really have this wave of opportunities, and we need to ride the wave. And we need to ride the mainstream wave. The mainstream wave is, for instance, is digital employment. Also for women entrepreneurs. Some of it can be in the context of companies, but some of it can also be as entrepreneurs. But what we need to do is ride the mainstream wave and eliminate all those barriers, the physical barriers, but also mental barriers that still exist. I think we have an amazing opportunity there to do that. I think, Tanzila, what you said, I fully agree. It's about accountability and it's about sustainability. This 1 year of programs. I guess you worked with Telenor in Pakistan. I'm familiar with them. Great example, but yeah, we need sustainability. And the other day we were just discussing in our team what is the most sustainable way of ensuring this disability inclusion is permanently there. It's not like a 1 year fashion. It is having persons with disabilities working in the organizations. And from that point of view, I'm happy to see more and more colleagues in the UN system. We're still not yet an employer of choice for persons with disabilities, but we are making progress. It's great to see colleagues like Vikan. We have also now increased with a few additional colleagues with disabilities in the ILO, and that is a game changer. It's a game changer in changing these mindsets, these low expectations that still persons with disabilities too often encounter situations of overprotection. No, we can't give you that job because that's too complicated. And of course, all these stigma and prejudice is even stronger when you combine disability with gender and with age. I mean, the whole intersectionality discussion is also moving up, and it's so important because disability comes with many other issues, and often these other issues also add even further layers to those that. But I'm very excited. Thanks a lot again for inviting me to this session, Lina, and congratulations to the co-speakers. Excellent presentations. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you so much, Stefan, for wrapping the session. And it's true that this is important to waive the mainstreaming issues to eliminate the barriers for persons with disabilities at work. And at ERIA, actually, we've got some publication as well for eliminating the barriers and then fostering the inclusions for persons with disabilities. I've shared the link at the chat box. And I would like to say again, thank you to all of the speakers, to Stefan, to Nunu, to Made, and then to Tanzila. Thank you so much. And I hope we stay connected. Nunu has been sharing the LinkedIn and then Tanzila as well at the chat box. So for the audience, please feel free to stay connected. So we have the session 4 next session. So thank you so much. And
Thank
see you at
you.
session 4. Bye.
Can we have group fee?
Thank you.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay, I'll take the screenshot. Okay. So in 1, 2, 3. Great. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Bye-bye.